to Indigenous Earth Community Podcast. I'm your host, Frank Weaver, and today we have an amazing episode about the monarch butterflies and their winter home in Mexico. In today's episode, I talked to Jose Luis Alvarez, a Mexican tree nurseryman who has for decades been growing trees for reforestation projects. In 1997, he created Forest for Monarchs, a nonprofit designed to restore the monarch forest habitat and at the same time give indigenous people a desperately needed source of wood for cooking, heating, and building houses. Join us as Jose tells us what the arrival of the monarch butterflies in Michoacán signifies to the local indigenous people and his decades-long work to reforestate their winter home. Stay tuned as we learn and what we can do at home to help these magical creatures. Jose Luis Alvarez, I want to thank you so much for protecting our planet, our forests, our monarch butterflies. And thank you so much for being here with us on the Indigenous Earth Community Podcast. I know there's a magical energy from the migration of the monarch butterflies. I think at one point you even described it as being spiritual. So I was wondering, do you have any words of wisdom or a short prayer that you can share with us?
I can tell you what the local indigenous people believe. They believe that the butterflies that arrive here in Michoacán, they arrive always on the Day of the Dead. And we celebrate the Day of the Dead in Mexico, and they believe that it's their ancestors, or originally that they were the warriors, the warriors for many years before, right? So it's a celebration of these monarchs coming, and they feel that maybe these monarchs have, the souls of the warriors or the souls of their grandparents or great-grandparents are in these butterflies, right? But it definitely is, it's very magical, you see, because you know the story about the monarchs. The monarchs that come here are three generations from the original ones that have been here, that spent the winter here, and they don't know where they're going, or they don't know, no one understands yet exactly how they come back to the same forest year after year.
Yeah, that's incredible. And it has to be a beautiful sight to see all these monarch butterflies wintering in Mexico. One time I took a bus from Orlando to Texas and from Texas to Puebla. And I just love Mexico. The people there are so friendly. The food is great. But I never been to Michoacán. What does it look like, the forest there with the butterflies?
Well, this is the transvolcanic chains of mountains, okay? So there's a lot of volcanoes, not active volcanoes, and it's just, beautiful forest. But what has happened in the last few years is they destroyed the forest and they're planting avocado trees because they opened the border for the United States to be able to export the avocados. And because of this, they destroyed, a great part of the forest in Michoacán. And in fact, that's going on in the butterfly area as well now. They're cutting down the forest and they're planting avocados.
Wow, that's very sad, especially here in the United States that avocados is so popular, In a way, the need of avocados here in the United States is kind of destroying the forest where the monarch butterfly is, and it's kind of sad,
It's destroying the forest all over Michoacán and all the states around under us, which is Nayarit, Jalisco, Estado de Mexico. They're all destroying the forest to plant these avocados. They call it green gold, okay? And so the people that are buying it, it's, the biggest market is the United States. You've got Japan, you got China that's buying it, Europe that's buying it, but the biggest market is the United States. When they lifted the embargo years ago, normally the embargo was to protect the producers from California and from Florida. And as soon as they lifted that, it just went crazy here. They just started cutting down the forest and planting the avocados because there's a lot of money in this crop. Halftime show for the earth. Enjoy a 1-minute sound of the butterflies in the forest.
Thank you for joining us again. We continue our interview with Jose Luis.
But let me go back to the butterfly, all right?
Yeah.
Let me tell you, when I started, what I was doing is I was reforesting their habitat, the nucleus, all right, where they actually spend the winter, all right? So I started doing that, and then after a while, I decided that I would plant outside of the nucleus. I'll tell you why. Because the nucleus, when one of the owners, because these are communities, needed some money because he had a child that was ill or whatever, he would go into the natural forest, in other words, the nucleus, and he would cut some trees and sell them, and then, he could cover the doctor expenses as well. But since right below it, it's just immediately below it, they have all these fields where they were planting oats and corn. I decided what I would do is leave the natural forest alone. I would transform these agricultural fields into commercial forests. So in the future, they would have their own wood to build their houses, to cook their food, because these people are forest people, all right? This is the way they live, all right? They build their houses with wood, they cook with wood, and if they need income, they'll cut some trees and sell them. So for the last, the nucleus I did for about 5 years, and the rest of this time is 22 years left, or what's left of this, I've been planting around it. And this, in other words, just below the nucleus in the buffer, and in the buffer as well. And so now they have commercial forests that they've cut, that they're making money with, that they're, the ones that have cut it or selectively cut it, or those that have clear cut, have replanted, and now they have a source of income, and they don't have to go into the natural forest where you have all the medicinal plants, where you have the overwintering sites for the butterflies. And this is the best part of this plan, or what I do, is to take the pressure off the natural forest by making commercial plantations just below the nucleus in the buffer.
That's incredible work that you're doing. And what can people here do to support you? Is there a website they can go to?
Yes, there's a website, and I think the easiest way to get into it is Forest for Monarchs.
And that way people can go in, they can see pictures, and they can see the work that you're doing?
They can see films, they can see everything that I've done for the last 22 years, and they can make donations. If somebody's interested in making a donation, that's fine.
Perfect. And we're almost wrapping up here. Is there anything else that you want to talk about that we miss?
Well, I think that the most important thing is that you asked me why the decline in the monarch population, all right? And so there's several reasons for this. One of them, which was very eminent, was the deforestation in the nucleus and in the buffer zone in the monarchs. But then there was a bigger problem, which was the United States. The milkweed that used to grow on the sides of the roads in the United States is being mowed, and they're using insecticides to kill the milkweed, okay? And with all the transgenic corn or soy or whatever, the milkweed disappeared as well. But for the last, I guess maybe 3 or 4 years, the United States is beginning to understand this. People are making milkweed gardens. I think they've stopped mowing and stopped putting herbicides on the sides of the roads. And even though we have climate change, which means that once in a while it snows or it hails here and it freezes the butterflies, if the butterflies on their way to the United States into Canada, which is 3 generations, sometimes it's 4, sometimes whatever, if they don't have enough food to eat, well, they can't reproduce. And this is a big problem, milkweed in the United States. So it's like a problem. It was something that had to be handled on both sides. You couldn't blame Mexico for deforestation without blaming the United States to get their act together and start planting milkweed once again.
Yeah, I like the way that you are seeing the part of the problem that is a global problem that is in both sides of the border, and we really have to come together and do our part, And with that, what is one thing that people can do to help the monarch butterfly? If you're going to give them a little bit of a homework. Homework for the earth.
Well, it's very easy. Plant milkweed. Instead of having a lawn that you're that you're mowing and a lawn that you're spending fertilizer on and you're watering, make a natural garden, not a front yard or a backyard. Make it natural with milkweed and with flowers that have pollen, and that's it.
That's amazing. And thank you again for taking the time to talk to us. I am very inspired by the work that you do and doing for all these years. And I know that the planet also is thankful for your work. And thanks.
You too. Take care and be careful with the virus. Huh?
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
Adios. Bye-bye.
Thanks again.